The cell cycle refers to the series of phases the somatic cell undergoes during its lifetime. Remember that a somatic cell is the body cells. So those are your skin cells, your hair cells, your liver cells, your muscle cells. All of those cells are somatic cells. Interphase, which is the first phase of the cell cycle, is made up of three distinct phases, G1, S, and G2. An interphase lasts for the majority of the cell cycle. During G1, the cell grows in size, and it performs its usual functions. A cell like a nerve cell or a muscle cell then enters a phase called G0 and does not continue on to making more cells. The G0 phase would come right after G1 if you are a nerve cell or a muscle cell. All other somatic cells proceed to S phase, and the S stands for synthesis. During S phase, the cell replicates its DNA so that there are 2 copies of each chromosome. During G2, the cell prepares for mitosis, which is the next phase. The mitotic phase is when the cell divides. Mitosis is the process of replicating somatic cells, and it consists of 4 different phases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. During prophase, the nuclear membrane disintegrates, meaning it falls apart. The centrioles, right here, move to the poles of the cell to either end, and the spindle fibers begin to form. In the next phase, in metaphase, the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. During anaphase, the sister chromatids separate, so no longer do I have my X's. Finally, in telophase, the nuclear membrane reforms, and the cytoplasm begins to pinch together. After mitosis is completed, cytokinesis is when the cytoplasm splits in 2 to form 2 distinct identical cells. So looking at this picture, the 2 cells that I have at the end of mitosis are exactly the same as the cell I started out with. In between the phases of mitosis are things called checkpoints. At each checkpoint, the cell checks the genetic material, and it checks the cell before it proceeds to the next phase. When a cell does not do a good job at checking itself before it reproduces, cancer might result. Cancer is caused by the disruption of the cell cycle in which a cell reproduces too fast. Students often get confused between mitosis and meiosis. I think it's because they look very similar. The process of mitosis forms 2 identical daughter cells called somatic cells. The process of mitosis forms 2 identical daughter somatic cells. Each of these cells have the same genetic information and number of chromosomes. They have the same genetic information and number of chromosomes. We call the number of chromosomes in mitosis diploid. Mitosis is associated with asexual reproduction and is similar to binary fission in bacteria. On the other hand, the process of meiosis forms 4 gametes, or sex cells. Each of these 4 gametes, or sex cells, have half the amount of genetic information and number of chromosomes. In meiosis, we call this number haploid. Each gamete produced by meiosis is different from the parent cell because crossing over occurs. Meiosis is associated with sexual reproduction.